Well, hello to people, hope you're doing well, hope you're doing okay, because today we're going to be answering the question, or at least trying to help you figure out if you could actually be autistic. I've got a bunch of questions for you to answer throughout the course of this video, and these questions are commonly linked with autism spectrum disorders. But just to let you know, this is part 1 of 5 for my World Autism Awareness Week series, and if you want to see the other videos, there'll be a playlist down below. A couple of disclaimers. The first one is this video is not to be used as a diagnostic tool. So basically you seeing the questions and thinking of the friend that you have in your office, thinking that they could be autistic and diagnosing them off this video, because firstly, I am a guy, I'm 28, I have cuddly toys behind me, and I'm talking to myself in a room talking to you. That's a little bit weird. Make sure you're doing your own extensive research using credible sources like the National Autistic Society in the UK or in the US, the ASAN, which is an autistic-led organization, and of course making sure you're finding autistic creators, seeing what their experiences are like, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, and seeing if you resonate with that. So, could you actually be autistic? Well, one of the questions I have for you is, do you have a sensitivity to certain sensory stimuli? So, for example, this could be sound. Sounds are typically quite loud for you, or even lighting. When you go into a room, the lighting just seems really, really bright. But because of sensory issues, do you find it difficult to participate in social events or go into certain places? Are you someone that notices small details changing, or are you someone that notices things that other people around you don't? Have you always felt like an outsider or an alien in comparison to everyone else around you, to the point where you've tried to figure out what it is that makes you different? Now, obviously, if we have interests and hobbies, we're obviously invested, but are you more invested than other people? Like, it goes further than what people may think. Have people ever said to you that you speak in a monotone way? So you may recall a story about your sister being at a birthday party and you talk about how exciting it was, but you don't share that excitement, or you don't express that in the way that you speak. Are you always setting reminders on your phone? Are you always setting alarms to remind you to do certain things? Are you the sort of person that in the past has picked up bad habits, such as biting the nails, picking at skin, chewing on the tops of pens, and you try to stop these bad habits, but you end up picking up other bad habits instead? Do you often feel overwhelmed by other people's emotions and then start to feel those same emotions yourself? Or do you sometimes feel like you find it difficult to feel emotions, and when people react a certain way, you're surprised by their reaction? Do you feel like you act differently, or you have different mannerisms when you're home in comparison to when you're out and about? For example, people in the autistic community stim when they feel agitated, or some stim because they're excited, like flap their hands when they're excited. When you're at home, do you do something like that, but when you're outside, you go out of your way to make sure you're not acting out as such? Do you feel like you have a lack of skills, or you're lacking certain skills from your skill set where others are just able to do it, such as taking phone calls, for example? Are you the sort of person that likes to be prepared, so you have structures, routines in your life that others may seem as weird, and the thought of being late to anything just fills you with dread? Do you find it difficult moving from task to task to task, and you find it really difficult to adjust from one task to another, so you prefer just doing that one task and really focus it in to get it right? Have you ever found it difficult holding down friendships, relationships, jobs? Either it's just been through a misunderstanding, or for you personally, you just didn't understand the reason why. Have you ever thought to yourself, why can't people just say what they mean? And you personally get frustrated or annoyed when people don't say what they mean, like it's kind of implied that you should know? Are there some forms of communication which you prefer over others, and when you have to use your less preferred ways of communication, it fills you with anxiety and you just feel uncomfortable? Phone calls are just not my jam, because I don't know, when you're talking to someone on the other end of a phone, you can't obviously see their face and, you know, see their kind of reactions and things. Like, is that something that you find difficult? Do you sometimes feel that it's your responsibility to fit in with other people, and you feel in your heart of hearts that if you did a better job of it, then maybe you'd have more friends, or, you know, relationships would be better? On a day-to-day basis, do you feel the need to filter yourself, checking what you're saying, and tend to overanalyze what you say? Or have people described you as the opposite? So you say whatever's on your mind without thinking of who's around you, the social situation at the time, and then because of the thing that you've said, it makes you feel like you just wish you had some kind of filter to be able to stop you saying certain things. When you're under a load of stress and pressure, do you uncharacteristically explode on people? So you express your anger and your frustration when you normally wouldn't. And when the other people around you ask you if everything's okay and you say the reason, they don't quite seem to understand how you could explode from that, like understand your reason for it. Or are you just the sort of person who just doesn't get conformity? You know, you don't conform to other people's expectations, society's expectations in regards to gender, sexuality, and just don't understand why in some social situations people do things in a certain way. Like, it just doesn't make sense to you. Have you ever been classed as gullible, or have you got experience in your past where you've been manipulated to a point where you didn't even realize it was manipulation in the first place? But also, if you identify heavily with a lot or even some of these questions, know that this is some of the experiences commonly associated with autism spectrum disorders and autistic people in general. Now, especially if you've identified with a lot of these questions, what do you do now? And I'm not going to simply let you go off and, you know, just do your own thing. Like, I do suggest that you have a look at your own research, doing your own research even, you know, to see if it's what you feel is right for you. You know, seeing if the term autism is right based on your experiences, how you feel as a person. And also knowing that your experiences and who you are as a person is valid, regardless of whether you identify with autism or not. But also, one of the other questions that you may have in yourself personally is, I identify with these questions really heavily and I need help. Like, I need legitimate help with how I'm feeling, how, you know, the world around me just doesn't make sense. I need legitimate help with that. And one of the things to think about really is an autism diagnosis. Firstly, whether you need one, or even if you want an autism diagnosis. Because for some people, you know, after this video, they may just be happy with just knowing that they have a name to refer to how they experience the world. This in itself is called self-diagnosis, which in my opinion, as an autistic person who has an official diagnosis, it's perfectly valid. Especially if you live in a country where the opportunity of getting diagnosed is just not available, whether it's through gatekeeping, whether it's through financial reasons, or just your location in your particular country. Self-diagnosis in this regard is perfectly valid. And one of the things is, you know, if you feel like you need that seal of approval, that autistic seal of approval, you know, that autism diagnosis to be able to get that help, then maybe an autism diagnosis is the route for you. Please bear in mind that with an autism diagnosis, it takes quite a long time, especially dependent on your country or even areas in your country. I mean, for example, in the UK, certain places, like where I live in the northeast, it can take 18 to 24 months to go through the entire process. Some places could be shorter, could be longer, but also as well, some countries may charge a premium, so thousands of dollars or whatever your currency is, just to get a bit of paper. that says autism spectrum disorder, this label which you identify with. But in tomorrow's video, I will be going into how to go about getting an autism diagnosis. So if you're excited for that, make sure you leave a big thumbs up for me down below and subscribe if you like this video and want to see more content like this. But for now, stay you, stay indie, and I will see you tomorrow for that brand new video. Take care.